All right, we are back with more mock draft content for you here on CHSN. Today, we are letting the AI robots make picks 1 through 9. And then we are gonna see how the board falls to us, and we're gonna play the role of GM. We're all gonna be Ryan Poles, we're all gonna be Ian Cunningham, and we are gonna make the pick for the Chicago Bears at 10 based on how the board comes to us. So Kevin Lapka, without further ado, take it away.
Well, we are going to just make the pick for the Tennessee Titans because, you know, we are
foregone conclusion.
This is a foregone conclusion. Cam Ward will go to Tennessee. Now, everything else here, we're leaving it to the AI. All right? Travis Hunter to the Browns. Deal's very likely. The GM was talking.
Wow. Whoa, they got their new Saquon. I love it. They got their new Saquon.
Whoa.
Mason Graham for Abdul Carter falls to 5. There goes Will Campbell.
This is crazy.
There goes Armand Membu.
Now it's starting to come back to us a little.
Yep. Now
Tyler Warren off the board.
Makes a little bit of sense.
Jade
Barron. Okay, so interesting.
Wow.
So
That is
Armand
kinda
Membu and Will Campbell off the board. Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren off the board. Here's something that's a little surprising. So we have Mike Green, edge rusher. We have Will Johnson, premier cornerback. I believe Jalen Walker is still out there, right? Might be more of an outside linebacker, maybe than a traditional defensive end, but talented pass rusher.
Wow.
Lots of talent.
This is a curveball here.
A little bit of curveball, and look, our phones are blowing up.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it's for Ted McMillan or
Whoa.
what. Do the Dolphins want Ted McMillan because Tyreek Hill wants out?
I mean, it certainly could make the consideration there, right? Tyreek Hill has been pretty vocal about wanting a change of scenery. They're getting rid of Jalen Ramsey. There could be a lot of transition going in Miami. That trade kind of makes me wonder. Should we get back in the trade?
Should we answer the phone, or should we take a look at who's available?
Tyreek Hill in the trade with the Bears. No, I think, look, I think a trade is 100% on the table here, right? Because at this point, when you see this board, do you kind of think defense after you see this board?
100%.
Yeah.
You kind of go to defense?
100%.
And then at this point, what is your opinion like on the difference between Shemar Stewart, the difference between the Georgia kids, Michael Williams and Jalen Walker? Like, is there one guy that stands out, or you're like, you know what? Any three of those who falls to us in a range of 10 to 16-ish is doable.
We're only moving 3 spots.
Right, but if you were, say you were to get a call from the Falcons or the Cardinals or the Bengals, what is our feeling on drafting for value there within those 6 picks?
I mean, I think the Bears are probably listening.
For
I
sure.
think the Bears are listening. If they can pick up another top 100 pick, like 98, then I do wonder if that's a move that they make. The question is, what do their clouds of players look like?
Right.
Do they have Shemar Stewart because he's a total freak of nature athlete? Do they have him way higher and they say, listen, we see the things on tape, we're grading the flashes, get him with Dennis Allen?
Yeah. Someone that Dennis Allen can obviously mold him up, right? He's clay.
Fits his profile.
Yep.
Fits his profile, and we're going to turn this guy into a mega producer. If they say Shemar Stewart is that guy head and shoulders above the rest, I think they just make the pick. But if they say we like Shemar Stewart, we like Mike Green, we like Donovan Ezaraku, there's a cloud of guys we like, then I think they're making the trade. I think for our purposes, I think it's fun if we make the trade.
Let's make the trade.
That would be my vote.
So we get 13.
Should we try 98?
Yeah,
And then we
1398.
get 98.
Maybe, do we ask for one more? I mean, this
Why
is.
not?
Oh my days.
What the heck? That doesn't seem likely.
You could probably go 98 135.
Yes.
Let's do that.
I would like that.
All right.
Huge.
Here we go.
You go down
Wow.
3. Okay, so did it already go?
You picked up a top 100
Where's your
pick
draft?
and a top
That's
150
amazing.
pick. That's amazing.
So the Niners go
They got 10.
Yeah, makes sense.
Obviously.
Exactly what we predicted.
Obviously.
There goes Mike Green.
Yeah, okay.
Highly productive edge rusher. And there goes
Ooh,
Matt
that's kind of
Golden.
fun in Dallas.
Okay, so now what I think is if you were at 10, you probably feel like that's too high for a guy like Walter Nolan or a guy like Jahad Campbell, but you still have Will Johnson sitting here at the table.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to push more propaganda, but you are still in an area where you can get players that are in positions that you need to fill, right? You wouldn't be mad at Kelvin Banks here. obviously. Jalen Walker could be someone who's like a game-changing player in time. I think he probably needs a little time to get his feet wet. But I think you're in a spot where you have a lot of good options.
We have a lot of options.
Yeah.
So do we make the pick here? And we feel good about making the pick here?
I think you probably will, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you trade down anymore. You fill a position of need. You definitely get someone that can be a day one starter, someone that comes in right away. And what do we get? 2 more picks in the top 150?
Yeah.
With the other 2 picks that we already have?
Yeah.
Now you're rich with like depth, right? You can
Yeah.
address as many positions as you need in the first couple rounds.
Okay, so who wants to stand on the soapbox and pound the table for their guy first?
I think Mike's pounding the table for Will Johnson.
I am.
I think he's going to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to go too far to figure that out for me. I think he's one of the best corners in this draft, and if you get him at this pick, he's ranked 14, you get him at 13, makes a ton of sense to me, solidify that defensive backfield.
Okay, Lapka?
I mean, the thing that I think about is like after extending a player like Kyler Gordon, you have Jalen Johnson, a blue chip player. Will they go heavy on cornerback, or could they address a bigger position of need, which I think would be edge? That's just and arguably a more impactful position if that guy turns out to be a true stud. So I'm not banging the table necessarily for anybody, but I am banging the table for the position. Now, my preference would probably be Jalen Walker, who's, I just don't know why he's so far down here on PFF. That would be my preference. I think Shemar Stewart is like way down here. I really like Shemar Stewart as an athlete, and when you think about the things that Ben Johnson said at free agency, I want gritty, tough, like gnarly players, right? He said that after they picked up Grady Jarrett and all the guys on the offensive line. Shemar Stewart fits that mold, so I'm going to bang the table for edge. But Alex, what are you thinking?
I'm actually kind of leaning towards Kelvin Banks, the
Okay,
right
so
tackle
tackle.
out of Texas. Now here's where I'm at. Darnell Wright is locked in to right tackle.
Yep.
You obviously have addressed the middle of that line. Braxton Jones, Dan Rochar said yesterday, we're filming this on Friday, that basically Braxton Jones, if he comes back healthy, nothing changes. He's our left tackle, and we're comfortable with that. But the 2 caveats, if he comes back totally healthy, he came back from a serious injury. He's still rehabbing. He's still rehabbing that ankle that he broke, that he had to have surgery to repair. And if nothing changes, well, something could change. So I do think that left tackle is still an area where the Bears could add competition.
For sure.
And this is a spot, you know, the best way to get your left tackle is to draft him. Same thing with edge rusher. I'll say the same thing with edge rusher, and honestly, same thing with your cornerback. So I guess we're all making the same thing here. We're all addressing premium positions here between cornerback, edge rusher, and left tackle. I think it's harder to find left tackles, though.
For sure.
You don't want to be picking in the top 10 forever. So an opportunity to get a guy who won the Lombardi Trophy for best lineman in the country, who's incredibly durable.
Which is what we need.
Hardly missed any time at Texas. Good run blocker. Very experienced. My guy would be Kelvin Banks, I think.
Yeah.
So now how do we come to a consensus here, folks?
Well, I think for my case, Will Johnson would be someone that I think you could pass on in this spot. I certainly am very high on him, but what we have in the defensive backfield already, I'm going to take my name out of consideration and let you two fight it out.
Well, no, you have to be the deciding pick.
Okay. All right. So between you two, I do think Shaps makes a lot of good points about the left tackle situation. I'm not necessarily sold on Braxton Jones as other people may be, and I do think Kelvin Banks has good pedigree, but when I think Bears, it's just like that defense. I mean, being able to rush the quarterback has been such a situation that we've struggled with over the last few years.
Yeah.
And you get a guy who may not necessarily need to make an impact right away. Dennis Allen gets his hands on him. Now you're talking about an impact player for a long time. I think I'm going to lean Shemar Stewart at 13. I wouldn't take him at 10.
And I think it makes a ton of sense. So I was talking with Dennis Allen. So after the podiums, we had some roundtable discussions with all the assistants. And somebody asked, hey, you know, you made some changes personnel-wise, and they used Jack Sanborn as an example. I guess just what's your vision? Why does Jack Sanborn not fit in, but TJ Edwards does? Like, obviously, TJ Edwards is a phenomenal player. I'm not comparing those two.
Just got extended.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I'm not comparing those two, but like, hey, what is your vision? And what he said is, what we need to do is become more athletic. We need to become faster. And who is incredibly athletic, probably the biggest athlete among
In
the
this-
defensive
yeah,
players
for sure.
in this draft, it's 𝗕𝗫 Stewart. So he fits that bill perfectly. 𝗕𝗫 Stewart's the pick, and if they can get something out of him, look out. I mean, Montez Sweat and 𝗕𝗫 Stewart, again, if they can maximize his potential,
Right.
you're talking about serious defensive line.
I feel so much more comfortable with 𝗕𝗫 Stewart under Dennis Allen than I would have in previous regimes, because he is someone that has transformed some of these guys who have tools, who are a little more raw, into really productive players. So I think you get him at 13, you'd be really happy about it. With extra picks
With
to
extra
boot
picks.
in the next 150 picks.
It's funny, I think our conversation here is really, really valuable because you talked about how top heavy this draft is, and I think GMs and these teams know that, right? So if you look in a situation like this where clearly the guys that the Bears really might want are Jeanty, Graham, maybe Mpembu, and Tyler Warren, right? Let's say it's those four guys. And Will Campbell, but I think it seems like he's really gonna go high now. If this is the way the draft board plays out in some form, and you're left with everybody else, I think a trade is really,
Very, very
really
possible.
likely. And we know Ryan Poles
Loves to
trade down, you know, so.
Yeah. The key is you got to find a dance partner.
Yeah.
And I think Ted McMillan was the key.
Yep. Absolutely.
That the
you
Dolphins,
said that right away.
That the Dolphins had an opportunity to take the first wide receiver off the board and add, you know, an offensive player to that Dolphins offense. I think that's the key, is like, who's a guy that's going to fall that somebody else is interested in that isn't necessarily on the Bears board. Bears don't need an outside wide receiver. They've got two in DJ Moore and Rome Odunze.
Yep.
But a team like the Dolphins really need that. That's the key. Will they find a dance partner to move back? Because I think, yes, the Bears probably might want to trade back in a lot of these scenarios, but will the board fall in a way that somebody else wants to come up?
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see. Obviously, having this 10th pick is huge, right?
Yeah.
When you have this roster already in place, you have an opportunity to select that best player available. So let's hope that there's a dance partner, because a trade might be really beneficial for this organization moving forward.
There you have it.